Hi everyone, I'm Jen and I teach people how to paint using acrylics. So I hope you enjoy this channel. This is my first video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and give me a follow. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, so today we're going to be painting the color wheel. I've got my three primary colors? Can I speak? Colors. I've got cadmium red, cadmium yellow and ultramarine blue. And we've also got some titanium white there on this palette. Okay, so we're going to be painting the RYB colour wheel. Just want you to get used to mixing colour. The best thing we can do when we're starting out is really use a limited palette and get used to mixing our own colours. And that's going to open up many doors for us down the line when we incorporate other colours. Okay, so you want to draw out a template. You want to draw it on some mixed media paper, acrylic paper, some thick card, something that's quite heavy so it can take the weight of the paint. What I've done is I've drawn a circle and I've drawn a little circle inside. I've just split it up into 12 boxes. Now, you don't have to do it like this. You can just have an open wheel and just paint along as we go, but I feel like sectioning it off really helps. I've also labelled what's going to go inside each box. So I've got yellow, red and blue, and then all the in-between colours here that we're going to mix. But we'll get round to that when we start mixing. Okay, I've got my filbert brush. This is just a really cheap one off Amazon. I teach a lot of in-person classes, so I always get things in bulk. So this is a nice cheap filbert brush, and I think it came in a pack of 12 as well for something like £5. This is a palette knife I'm going to be using for mixing. I love mixing with palette knife. If you haven't mixed with a palette knife before, I'll be doing a video on this. Okay, but let's get started. So we've got our primary colours. The first thing we want to do is just paint in the yellow, the red and the blue. And every time we paint in a colour, we're going to wash our brush and make sure it's super clean in between each colour. Okay, let's get going. Okay, perfect. So we've got our primary colours in. So now it's time to start mixing. So using these primary colours, we're going to create all these other colours in between, our secondaries and our tertiary colours. You might want to write down what you're mixing at the side, just to reference it, what colour it is, and whether it's secondary or tertiary. Okay, so let's get mixing. This is a fun bit. So the first thing we're going to do is mix an orange. To mix an orange, we're going to use yellow and red. But what we need to bear in mind is, a lot of people might think that it's 50% yellow and 50% red, you'll get an orange. But in fact, if you do that, you're going to get a red orange because red is very pigmented, it's very strong, and it takes over the transparent yellow. So what we need to do is probably go more 75% yellow and 25% red and see where we're at. Best thing to do is just mix and just see what we get and then add where we need to add. Okay, so let's take a nice scoop of yellow and let's mix quite a lot of this colour because we'll be using it later down the line. So I'm going to take quite a few scoops of yellow, just taking 4 scoops there, and I'm going to wipe my palette knife. Let's try and keep it nice and clean and not contaminate our paint so we get a true colour. Okay, we're going to take 1 scoop, dropped it, 1 scoop of red, and let's mix that with our palette knife. I'm just mixing with the back of my palette knife to make sure I don't waste any paint. Okay, see, we're getting a lovely orange there, and you see how much red we added compared to the yellow, and we get a beautiful orange that sits somewhere in the middle. Okay, let's paint that on then. Now, I want you to take your time with mixing. Just enjoy the process. I think mixing colour is the funnest thing to do. So really enjoy it and don't feel like you need to rush along. You can always pause this video and have a cup of tea and just mix your colour. Again, I'm going to put this on quite thickly just so you can really see it. There we go. Lovely. So this is our secondary colour. The secondary colour is what sits in the middle of the two primaries. And to get the secondary colour, we mix the two primaries together. Perfect. Okay, let's wash our brush. So if you want to go ahead and write down secondary colour, orange or orange secondary, just to have a note there of what it is, then go ahead. Now we're going to mix our secondary colour between the red and the blue, which should be violet. So let's take a nice small scoop of blue. And again, this time, it's the same as we did with the yellow and the red, because we're not going to use the same amount of each. We're actually going to use a little bit more red this time. Blue is a much stronger colour than the red and does take over. So I'm not going to go 50-50. I'm actually going to take probably three scoops of our red paint and give that a mix. And let's just see where we're at. Don't worry if you don't get it the first time round. That's the beauty of learning. We just try. We learn through doing. So I'm going to give that a nice mix and we should get a beautiful standard violet. Lovely, and there we have it, a really nice violet. It might come up quite dark on the camera there, but when I paint it in you should be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, and again I've mixed quite a lot of that colour, so make sure you've got quite a bit of it because we will be using it further down the line. Let's paint that on nice and thick there. And don't worry, it doesn't have to be tidy. I'm definitely not a tidy person. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to rinse my brush. And if you want to go ahead and write secondary colour, violet, then go ahead. Now for our final secondary colour, we're going to mix green. To mix green, we're going to use the yellow and the blue. But we're going to use a lot more yellow than the blue because that blue is very strong. It's actually stronger than the red. So we're going to use a very small amount of blue compared to our red. So if you'd like to watch me first and then have a go. So I'm going to take a big scoop of yellow, 2 big scoops of yellow there, and give my palette knife a wipe. Okay, now for blue, I'm literally going to take a very small lump there. Let's give that a mix. I might need more blue, but it's better to add a little bit at a time. Okay, that's turning out quite nice. I'm quite happy with that. Let's just make sure it doesn't go too yellow. If it goes too yellow, we're going to get a yellow-green, which we're going to come to later. In fact, I think that's pretty perfect. Yeah, I'm happy with that green. It's a gorgeous colour. Okay, now I'm going to wipe my palette knife and we're going to paint that green in. Again, I'm going to paint it on quite thickly. Perfect. Okay, now it's probably time to change our water. If it's anything like mine, it's very dirty. So let's go and rinse our brush and then let's go and change our water. Okay, so now we've got clean water, you might want to top up your paints as well. It's time to mix our tertiary colours. Tertiary colour is anything that sits in between a primary colour and a secondary colour. So for instance, we're going to mix a yellow-orange. Yellow-orange is more yellow than it is orange because it's an orange that we've mixed with the added yellow. So you can think like that for any of the tertiary colours. So in between red and orange would be a red-orange. So you're just putting the primary name first. Red-orange, blue-violet, yellow-green. So it's pretty simple when we think about it like that and we break it down. So let's get mixing. Okay, so the first one we're going to mix is a yellow-orange. And this is why we need lots of our secondary colour. So we're going to use it. So let's take a nice scoop of orange, place that there, and let's mix in some yellow. Now, I'm still going to wipe my palette knife. It's so tempting to go straight in, but let's keep this nice and true to the colour and not mix them around too much. Okay, so the yellow, I'm going to add 2 scoops of yellow to my 1 orange and give that a mix. And you can add as much yellow as you like. As long as it's more yellow than it is orange, you've achieved a tertiary colour. So let's give that a mix. Lovely. Perfect. You see how much brighter this one is? Okay, now I'm going to paint that in. Again, I'm going to paint it in quite thick so you can really see it. Perfect. Okie dokie, now let's wash our brush. In fact, I've got quite a bit of paint on there. I'm going to scoop some back. Now it's time to mix our red-orange. And if you want to mute this video and paint along with me, then go ahead. You can put on your favourite piece of music. You can really enjoy just mixing your colours if you understand what we're doing for all these. Okay, so for red-orange, we're going to take a scoop of our orange again. See if we can fit some down here. And we're going to take a scoop of red. Just wipe my palette knife down. Okay, let's give that a mix. And again, as long as it sits more on the red side than the orange side, we have achieved a tertiary colour. Beautiful, lovely. But let's just pop that down there, we might as well. And let's paint that in. Okay, again, we can paint that in quite thick. Perfect. Now it's time to mix a red-violet. So let's take a scoop of our violet. And in fact, I'm going to place a scoop down here ready for our blue-violet. I think that makes more sense rather than wiping my palette knife first. Right, okay. So let's create a red-violet. Let's get a nice big scoop of red. Might even go in with 1.5 scoops there and give that a mix. Just so you can really see that shift. Now I always think this looks like mud. It's not my favourite colour. The interesting thing about mixing your colours, you'll know what you lean to most, what you like the most and what you don't like the most. Let's give that a wipe. And let's paint that in. Perfect. Okay, now it's time for our blue violet. Because I've already put a scoop of violet down here, we just need some blue. Let's take a nice scoop of blue. Might take a bit more. I love blue violet. I think it's such a lovely colour. Okay, let's give that a mix. Perfect. Lovely. Now let's paint that in. Okay, our final two colours are blue, green and yellow green. So let's take a scoop of green to place there for yellow green and a scoop just underneath for blue green. And then let's wipe our palette knife. Okay, so with this green we're going to add some yellow. So let's take a nice big scoop of yellow and give that a mix. And as long as it's just more yellow than the green, then we've definitely got a yellow green. I've just realised that I've mixed these the opposite way around. Not that there's a right or wrong way, but lovely. We have a nice yellow green there. So let's fill that in. Again, quite thick there. Make sure that's nice and thick. Perfect. Lovely. Now we've got that yellow green. It's time to add some blue to this green. We've done it the other way around. But let's now make a blue green. Let's just wash our brush and make sure we've got clean palette knife too. Oh, got a splash on my palette. Okay, so now let's add a scoop of blue to this green. Let's create a blue-green. Again, I do love a blue-green. I think it's a great colour. Lovely. See how nice that is? It's beautiful. Hopefully you can see it with the lighting. Okay, let's wipe the palette knife and fill our last colour in. And then we're going to do something a little bit different just to show you what else you can do. Okay, so there we have it, our colour wheel. Join me in the next video if you'd like to play around with our values. So that's going to be adding white